Yeah, he said only 2 minutes, right? So, and oh, did we lose Brigitte too? Did we lose Brigitte too? Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, all right. Brigitte, she'll probably reconnect. We're just still testing here. Oh, there she is. Hi, Brigitte. I'm going to request you to unmute. Where are you? Oh,
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, we are live.
okay.
Oh,
Let's
wow.
Part 2. Yep.
wait a second
Thank you.
here to make sure everything's going fine. Yeah, well, we're going to wait it's been about 10 seconds. So Brigitte, can you say a few things?
Yes, I can say a few things.
Thank you.
And we are live and ready to go.
Okay. But my speech will be later, I think.
Yeah, people are filtering in from lunch, so it's okay. We're taking
How much time do we have till I'm introduced by the daughter Cheyenne? Oh no, it's not Cheyenne, but it's the daughter of Paula. I recognize her.
yeah, I hope he was doing a little bit of presentation, but we have an 8-month-old here. Oh, I mean, yeah.
So half an hour?
Yeah. Yes, half an hour.
Yeah.
So do you need me now? Because otherwise I will be back in 30 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Fine.
Back in 20 minutes, is that okay?
20 minutes, Brigitte. So
Okay.
20 minutes?
So you're up there ahead of time. You won't start in 20 minutes. We just want to make sure you're there and there's no more issues.
Okay, so in 20 minutes I'll be there again.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, okay.
Reggie says everything seems fine. Now
Okay.
I need to push a pre-record.
Okay.
I don't know if you can hear me. Reggie, can you hear us? Because I'm going to push a pre-record.
Yeah, I can hear you. Are you gonna play something over like a video broadcast or something?
Yeah, we're going to play something shortly here. Thank you.
And they imploded what was the product that was on this train, and it caused a major effect on not only the air but also on the water and on the land and on the people. And that was in East Palestine. And the product that they were transporting is vinyl chloride. Vinyl chloride is one of the main ingredients in developing plastic. The plastic with which they're using in these new green energy with solar panels, with electric cars, batteries, your cell phone, all of these things. So vinyl chloride goes into the development of these products, and they ignited it. But the overall consequences, once they begin to burn, all of that stuff, spread. It spread and it contaminated not only the air, but the water and the land. And it's affected the people. Well, various agencies got involved, and just recently the state and even the federal government had forced the companies, these corporations to begin to, settle with the people. And they made a huge settlement offer, and which was accepted because everybody looked at the dollar figure. But in reality, what it came down to was about $2,000 per family. But also to these agencies have committed to monitoring the effects, monitoring, not dealing with. So these individuals who are dealing with the effects with their health, who's paying the doctor bills? Who's paying the medical bills? And, these corporations and the state and the federal government, they're not going to be seen to that. All they're going to be doing is monitoring the overall effects. So now suddenly we've been downgraded to data. And that's how they're treating us. That's how they're treating the people, as data. And all of that goes into the research. So, this continues. This is continuing. And, and this isn't the final chapter. There'll be more chapters involved here. So, we need to be mindful about what is going on, because not only is it here in Ohio, but it's everywhere. All right, I wanted to say about that much. So thank you.
Hello, greetings. I'm Karena Gore, and I want to say hello to each of you, especially those gathered together in Pipestone in person. I wish I could be there with you, and also to everybody watching from around the world on this World Peace and Prayer Day. I want to say thank you especially to Arvol and Paula Looking Horse for inviting me to share some thoughts. I do have some images to share as I do so, and I want to communicate how important this gathering is to me, and I hope that I can do that effectively by showing a couple of images. So here we go, and this will begin, sorry. This is just the title that I thought was appropriate because I really feel that we're in this time of a shift in perception. And I will explain more. I work at the Center for Earth Ethics at Union Theological Seminary, and we began with a conference called Religions for the Earth in 2014, where we wanted to explore the moral and spiritual dimensions of the climate crisis. And we did so with people representing different religious and faith traditions from around the world. And what made it particularly powerful was that we had voices and we had ceremony from the indigenous peoples of this world. And I most particularly want to pay honor and respect to Arvol and Paula, who were there, and to acknowledge that in the beginning, or rather throughout, there was this sense of ceremony. And it was done in part through a ceremony with stones. And I just want to acknowledge that we have these stones used in that ceremony in the place where I work now at the Center for Earth Ethics. We have our 10-year anniversary next year. And so all of this work that I'm doing with my colleagues, I really feel is connected to a larger, deeper prayer. And so I just offer those images in that way to say thank you. And I want to say, in terms of the circle and the sphere, that one of the ways that I'm thinking about this time is that we are more and more aware that we live in this time where there are many problems, global, environmental problems, as they say. And this has to do with, I think we can think about it like there are these two big trends happening at the same time that are related. And one is that we have all this pollution that's going up into that very thin shell of the atmosphere, which you see on the image on the left there. And we look up and we see the sky, and we know that it actually contains that pollution that gets put up there from those emissions. And that's something that is causing this extreme weather, the heat waves and the stronger storms, and the wildfires, the melting of ice at the poles because it's getting hotter, and all of that. And then also we have that depletion on the ground, that destruction of the habitats, that the depletion of the waters and the cutting down of trees, and so habitats for other living beings, and also for human beings, of course. And so I think as we're thinking about those that are protecting their sacred sites and their places where they live, we understand also that this is an aggregate. It all adds up, right? So each one's coming to protect those places is protecting the whole. And so I wanted to just give thanks and acknowledge in that way the importance of what's going on. I want to say something about the importance of Standing Rock, because this was something that really inspired many people. What happened when the Standing Rock Sioux and their allies, and of course led by Indigenous peoples, gathered together in that prayer camp years ago. And we know this fight is still ongoing, actually, against Dakota Access Pipeline. But I just want to say it was meaningful. I was able to travel there. I stayed with Cedric and Sissy Goodhouse, for whom I have a great deal of respect and affection, and want to say thank you for that. And just also to acknowledge that, and here's Cedric, actually, who came and spoke at Union Theological Seminary in New York City, right where you saw that picture of me with the stones. This is right inside that door there, and really helped to spread that awareness. This was a gathering that he spoke at, as well as many other leaders you can see there, where people were talking about not only Dakota Access Pipeline and Standing Rock, but then starting to really become aware and talk in new ways about how we can do work in our own communities, protecting these sacred sites and these places in nature. And so just to say, oh, and here's a picture where we were able to go with the delegation, and I hope this is all right with Chief Arvol Looking Horse to share this of him with John Lewis, who was, of course, a civil rights leader who passed away a few years ago. But he, this to me represents coming together of peoples, coming together of awarenesses about how there are these issues of rights for people, civil rights for people, those that have been marginalized, being heard, and also to understand that we need to widen our circle to include those peoples, but also future generations, and also all the non-human life, all those other beings that we share this planet with. And so I want to talk about some of my personal experience with fighting, particularly fossil fuel pipeline. Ditch that was dug for a fracked gas pipeline. This was in Boston in 2016 in West Roxbury. And the person who had this idea for how to do this action is Tim DeChristopher. He's in the suit there. So I want to acknowledge that. And the idea is to draw these connections. So on the left is a picture from Pakistan where there were, this is a poster obviously that was shared, and there were these mass graves dug from people dying of heat waves in Pakistan. And on the right is the pipeline trench in West Roxbury where the action took place. And so this is an example of people coming and protecting the places that they live. And it does happen in urban areas. So this was an urban setting where this pipeline action happened, and it was the city of Boston was suing against this pipeline. Actually, all the elected worried about explosions. That's a big issue when it's an urban fight. It's a big issue everywhere, but when it's an urban area, especially because we know these high pressure fracked gas pipelines involve that, and should be the energy system of the past. We should obviously be shifting to the solar and wind and battery storage and energy efficiency and so on. And so this is just one that I had experience with. I wanted to share. This is just to show you how, again, the Standing Rock inspired so many of us. And this is in our courtyard at Union with some of our Center for Earth Ethics team at the time. And I just had one of those times I was wearing that standing with Standing Rock, and many of us were coming from that place of inspiration. And here, again, this is actually in New York and in Westchester, so an urban, sort of suburban area where there was a fight against a fracked gas pipeline. There were several, but this one was when we were fighting, I believe, the Algonquin incremental market pipeline expansions. There was also the Constitution pipeline fight that I was supportive of here, but just to give you an example of where people are coming together and how these which you know already, but how this brings us together, brings us into community and authentic relationship with one another in new ways, that I think is really something to continue to walk the prayer of. And here is in Virginia, this was against the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. I was able to participate in this particular march, and many people on those front lines. So I'm not the main leader put in their home place neighborhood area. And of course, that's part of a pattern where these places that emit a lot of toxins are put in communities of color, and in this case, a historically Black community. And this was actually a success. Acknowledgement to those that have fought the Mountain Valley Pipeline. We had really disappointing, kind of heartbreaking news that is now functioning, carrying that fracked gas as of June 11th. And just want to say to those people and their different organizations, but Appalachian Voices, Power, thinking is really powerful. And this is just a picture from where my family is from. So actually I did a message a couple days ago for World Peace and Prayer Day from right there, from down by the river there in Middle Tennessee. And of course that's ancestral land of different indigenous peoples, including Cherokee. And so happy we've had Eastern Band of Cherokee, Mary Crow, and others come there and greet them respectfully. But there's some real challenges there. So for a call to action for those in that area, which I am going to answer as well, we need to be aware that there's a pipeline expansion planned by, first of all, the Tennessee Valley Authority, which should be shifting from coal to renewables, is actually planning to shift to natural gas. So again, that fracked gas, which has that aspect of exploding things under the earth. And and also, of course, the methane is a super pollutant in the sky. So this is sunrise, and this is part of my World Peace and Prayer Day thought here, to really be in that movement there, and to work for that. And then here is actually back to the region I'm living in now. This is what's known as the Hudson River, but Lenape peoples call the Mexicantuck, the river that flows both ways. And here in this circle, we have Ramapo Munsee Nation leaders and members, as well as people from around the community who are doing a ceremony there. In fact, there's some folks from EcoPeace Middle East there, that there's an Israeli and a Palestinian and a Jordanian who are part of what they call EcoPeace Middle East, to take care of the Jordan River. And that was a ceremony we had in that copper bowl, some water that we offered, and we did that in the way that actually grandmother Josephine Mandamin of Ojibwe taught us to do. And so I want to give thanks in that way for those lessons from Anishinaabe Ojibwe from grandmother Josephine. And apologies if I'm saying anything wrong. My intention is only to honor and to show that this movement is really strong and powerful, and happening in a way that that I want to give thanks for. And so just in closing, I would say that what we're witnessing and able to be a part of is that people, in protecting these places that they love, and it's not just the earth, not just the surface we walk on, as we know, it's the layers underneath the ground, and it's the layers up into the sky. And so we widen our circle to include anybody that's been excluded. And we also are aware that we're living within this living sphere of life. And I want to just say thank you for the opportunity to share that. And I hope that you have a wonderful gathering there together in person in Pipestone, and that we can all be in touch, and that I will have the opportunity to support and to greet each of you in person one day. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Corinne Gore, for joining us for World Peace and Prayer Day. Our next presenter is going to be presenting via Zoom. Her name is Brigitte Madeline Van Baren. She's the chair of Living Peace Projects Foundation, and her presentation is going to be on living water for world peace. Five minutes? Fine.
Yes, thank you so much, Hopi, for your introduction. And greetings to all of you guests, and especially Chief Arvol Looking Horse and Paula. It's a privilege that you invited me to share thoughts about the importance of living water for world peace. First of all, I want to start with an invocation honoring all the spiritual traditions. So let me start. Om Shanti Shalom Salam Amen Vaheguru Mini Vichoni Bodhi Swaha. Om Shanti Shalom Salam Amen Vaheguru Mini Vichoni Bodhi Swaha. Om Shanti Shalom Salam Amen Vaheguru Mini Vichoni Bodhi Swaha. So, living water is very important. According to the United Nations, we will have only half of the fresh drinking water we need by 2040. That is within 15 years. So if we want a sustainable future, to ensure this sustainable future, we must protect our water. It should be on our top priority agenda for everyone. Without water, we are finished. So we have to wake up to this water reality. Each one of us. There's no time to lose. So the lack of drinking water will be the threat number one to world peace and to humanity. And with Living Peace projects, we want to make a difference by organizing peace pilgrimages to sacred places with water as the healing medicine. And by raising awareness on the preciousness of water, by collecting water from sacred water sources around the world, as you see now on screen, and by initiating educational projects, water projects, to raise the awareness, living water cycle houses, rain harvesting cycle houses for education, and cleaning parts of sacred rivers, springs, lakes. Living Peace Projects has been founded in 2018. Professor Witteveen, former director of the IMF, and myself, and together with the spiritual leaders. And we asked spiritual leaders from different traditions to join this foundation. And they all said yes. So we have founding fathers from the Buddhist tradition. His Holiness Kenting, the 12th Kenting Taisitupa, the Hindu tradition, Puji Swami Chitanand Saraswati, the Sufi leader, Islam, Said Salman Chisti, the shaman from Greenland, Agangak, a bishop, a rabbi. They all joined because they value the importance of water, peace, and education. And also Chief Arvol Looking Horse. I'm so grateful to Paula and Chief Arvol, having met them several times in New York, in Amsterdam, in the Golden Temple. They joined a peace pilgrimage for living peace. And last year at Mount Shasta, being there with you had such an impact. So feeling and also hearing the speakers before the break moved my heart, because it's about living water, and water is female. So the rivers in India anyway, they are treated as a goddess. And actually life is female. It's a female aspect which is in both the genders, in men and women. So for me, living water is the fresh water from natural water resources. Rivers, lakes, springs, glaciers, but also water from the rain. And somehow we lost our connection with the water as a sacred source. We see it as a product which you can buy in a bottle in the supermarket. We are not aware, actually, about the consciousness and awareness which is hidden in the water. Earlier times, long ago, we had a sense organ and we had, a relationship, an inner relationship with water. We could communicate with water, not through words, but through our heart. But somehow along the line, we've lost that inner connection. We lost our connection with this sense organ. And trusted more on our rational mind, the logical things in life. But life is irrational. Life evolves in an unlogical way. We can plan things, but most of the time it turns out differently. John Lennon said some wise words. He said, "Life is happening while we are making other plans," and it is so true. So we not only lost our connection with the water, we lost our connection with the heart. Our heart. And it's important to regain that inner sense of the heart, which enables us to experience the water as a living being, as a sacred source of life. And the wonderful thing is that the spiritual traditions all acknowledge the power and the value of water. Water has the tendency to go beyond its boundaries, to merge with other waters, and in the end, in the ocean. And also our heart has the tendency to go beyond its physical boundaries, to merge with friends. And I feel that at this moment, because I'm so connected with you, Chief Arvol and Volea, and also, the others I met last year. So although I'm in the Netherlands, my heart is with you. And I feel that very much at this moment. So our connection with the water is disturbed and needs to be restored. And the challenge is that, we are stuck in our heads, in our mental brain. We think that we can solve the problems in a logical way. But we have to do with the spiritual dimension, the spiritual being of water. All the waters in India are sacred. All the waters from the Native Americans are sacred. And maybe I forget also Africa and the other continents. All the native people feel the sacredness of water. We have to learn to bridge the distance from our head to our heart and to look with the eyes of our heart, to listen with the ears of our heart, to bridge that distance and to act from the wisdom within to solve the problem of the imbalance of the water. Actually, the water is a mirror for us. And the water, not only Mother Earth, but the water, her veins are sick. So we have to heal the water. But first of all, we are water ourselves. So we have to heal ourselves as well, and seeing ourselves in a different perspective. We see ourselves as that we are a body and we have feelings and emotions and thoughts. But that's only a small aspect of what we are. In the first place, we are spiritual beings. in a frozen form. We are water energetic beings. We are more water than anything else. So if we would act like water, we would understand better the water of the rivers and the sources. And therefore we need not only our heart, but also the silence dimension. In the silent dimension, we can feel the spirits, and we need the spiritual dimension to solve this problem, to approach this problem and this issue on the water in a more holistic way. Water cannot be solved only in a technical way. We need to see the spiritual dimension in life. And to see it as a holistic way. Like, you know, I will not take too long, but we need to include two dimensions. The spiritual side, first of all. We need to be aware more that we are a spiritual beings. And then also the practical side, to wake personal urgency by everyone taking care for the water, the living water, to educate everyone on compassionate earth water behavior with the Water Springs book, which also Chief Arvol contributed, and all the other spiritual leaders, to initiate educational water projects. And I hope that in a few years we can install a water project in Cheyenne, a reservation of Chief Arvol. And we need the commitment of the spiritual leaders from all traditions to join hands, because they all acknowledge the importance of living water, peace, and education. In that way, we can restore the connection with the living water. The connection in ourselves with the water inside and outside of us. The connection with the spiritual dimension and the ancestors and the spirits of the rivers and the lakes. Then automatically we restore the connection inside and outside. This is my message. I believe in the spiritual leaders. I believe in the innate nature of human beings. We are one human family, no matter what color or what background we have. We are breathing together. We are merging together as water beings. And only our head tells us that we are separated. So if we listen to our heart, we will restore the living water in ourselves, in nature, and with each other. This is my belief and my dream for humanity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brigitte, for your presentation and joining us on World Peace and Prayer Day. And I just want to make a quick announcement before we start our next Zoom. We really need the Wi-Fi to be strong. So if everyone could just kind of get off the Wi-Fi to kind of up the speed for us so we could broadcast, it would be really, we would be appreciative. So anyway, our next guest speaker is going to be joining us via Zoom. Her name is Sarah James. She's from Witch-In, Arctic Village, Alaska. She's a spokesperson for Arctic Refuge for her tribe. And her presentation is going to be prayers for Arctic Alaskan Witch-In. So I'd like to present Sarah James via Zoom.
Hello, good morning. It's still morning here. And this is a prayer for the Arctic, the whole Arctic, all the Alaskan and Cochin. Cochin are Alaskan, they're Northeast Alaskan Cochin is Athabascan Indian, interior Alaska. The whole interior Alaska, there's about over 10 or more different dialect, which is one of them is Cochin. We're located northeast interior Alaska. English is my second language. Cochin is my first language. I am proud of it. I've been laughed at, point at, and whatever. Sometimes I cannot say anything in my language in English or vice versa, but it's still good to have two languages. I was raised on the land about 50 miles from the nearest neighbors, out on the land, just us, my family, just my parents and me, and I'm the last one in the family. I'm the youngest in my family. Everyone went out, and I always end up staying home with my mom. I learned mostly from my mom, and I learned many times in the whole world there would be only me out there in the country. When I'm out there playing house or whatever I'm doing out there, away from our little cabin or neither little camp, because everybody's out on their trap line or hunting or fishing, whatever. Because I'm too young to go out with them, so I'm usually stay home by myself with my mom and just kind of my whole playground. And I believe I really grew up well. I think that's really good. But we were good. Our life ways gave us blessing and wealth, which we are grateful for. We say masicho. That means thank you very much. In our way, to shout out thank you, we say hi, hi. So both that means thank you. We were not rich or we were not poor, but our life ways give us blessing and wealth for which we are grateful. Masicho, hi. Arctic Village is about 110 miles northeast of Arctic Circle, interior Alaska. Arctic Village is one of 15 villages. Cochin Village. Cochin really means language that we speak. We speak Cochin. Some are in US and some are in Canada. We're all united in protecting the caribou, in which every which way applies since 1988. Before, we always protected porcupine caribou herd. It's called porcupine because it passes Porcupine River. Porcupine caribou herd is now increasing, but all the other caribou are declining. Some fast. Caribou don't mix. They stay within their herds. There's more than one herd in Alaska and Canada. But they don't mix. They don't mate among herd to herd. So they stay within their herd. They petition starts with praying for the caribou. For the last 40 years or more, ever since I remember, I had to learn how to pray and protect the caribou. After Trump, it was difficult for everybody, not only me, everybody, not only you, everybody. Cochin, our people are committed to being united. That wasn't changed, that hasn't changed. We were still strong, still united. 15 villages, not to compromise, and we do need help. we do need prayers to continue to do it in a good way. Why we say no to oil that threaten the coastal plain of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Ishikotsam Kontai Gotlet, we call it, sacred place where the life began. To say coastal plain of the Arctic National Wildlife, we call that place Ishikotsam Kontai Gotlet. It means sacred place where the life began. Every 2 years we have Gutchen gather. Welcome our friends, supporters, their friends together to celebrate, educate. This year it is happening in one of our villages called Circle, Alaska. It's outside of Fairbanks. I think everybody knows where Fairbanks is at. Alaska, there is, in Alaska, all the Gutchen villages don't have a road except Circle. That's the only place, a road to go into Gutchen Nation. The gather is July 15 to 21 this year, 2024. There will be a feast, of course, and we need prayers for safety, work, and fun to get home. We need prayers for our villages, prayer for all our friends in Arctic Refuge supporter, for the supporter. There's many out there. Conservationist people, friends who are committed to protect the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Prayers for the Arctic region and climate change. Climate change is real in the Arctic. The whole Arctic is real on climate change. To begin with, we have to do our part to pray for climate change now for the whole world. We have to do our part and pray for our parts in this world. Arctic protection is a national issue. It is a public interest land, Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Any American citizen has the right to say no because it's a public interest land. Friends, supporter, conservationists, individual, they do lots of work to protect the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. We need prayers for them and us, side by side. To us, it's a human rights. To them, it is repatriation. That means they want to keep it that way. They want it nice and clean for recreation, for visitors, scenic, and protect the animal, protect the land. That's all in their heart. And we need to protect the Arctic Refuge together. Throughout Alaska, over 60 villages haven't got their fishing rights for their way of life. My dad is a salmon people, and my mother is Caribou people, and that's how they got married. But my family ended up in the Caribou country. All those villages haven't got their fishing rights for their way of life for past 10 years or so. People throughout Yukon is huge and is still natural, who are losing land, are losing parts of their traditional way of life because there is overfishing by the governments and the corporation out in the sea. People are not getting their way of life back for over 10 years now. It's controlled by governments law, and they limit the use more and more. It's really hurting our salmon people along the Yukon from watershed. of Yukon down to the Bering Strait. People who depend on salmon, their world is salmon nation. We want each and everybody to pray for salmon to come back, for people to get their fish and enjoy their traditional way of life. Our porcupine caribou are doing well, increasing. We still have to pray for them to be protected permanently. To be protected permanently, you have to contact your congressional peoples because this is national issue. I would like to pray for our people, Gwich'in people, for their traditional way of life and their animals and their land and their water, air, and all the life out there. Because Alaska is still wild or still natural. We need to keep Alaska that way for our children and for your children. Today, we protect our earth, our way of life, to live healthy, to continue to see the natural beauty Creator has created, provided. We have to do our parts, each and every one of us. It doesn't leave anybody behind. All of us, our children, our grandpas, before us, parents, brothers, sister, our boss, our work, our pay, our friends. We have to do the 4 R's. The 4 R's are recycle, reuse, reduce, and refuse. Use less oil until we don't have to go. We don't have to use. Go solar, small hydro, wind. There's a lot of other source of energy, more bicycle, more walks, to live in a healthy world, to be healthy. Our body is the earth. We have to do that for the earth. We have to do that for our body. Get away from drug and alcohol. We have to get away from other sources of food that aren't good for us. There's good food that will keep you strong and healthy. Practice to be. We can do it, each and every one of us, of you, not leaving anyone out. I'm 80 years old today, and people want to know why I don't look 80. Well, I do to myself, but I don't feel like stopping. I'm working at 80. I got a job at 80. It's good for me. It's good for the work I do. That's important. You have to do the work. You have to pray to do it. Good work. Pray. Answer every prayers is answered every day. Prayer is possible, and prayer is good to do. So I pray that you pray, and I continue to pray. Thank you. Masicho, Hank, Shalak Nai, all my relations, Shalak Nai. Thank you for giving me the time on to tell the world about the prayers and the prayer needs, to do the prayer. And prayer is good. God is good. Creator is good. Masicho hai salak nai, all my relation.
Thank you, Sarah, for joining us today and for your presentation. Our next presenter is going to be joining us from Zoom as well. He's Danae. Danae. His name is Sean Mulford. His presentation is going to be on the San Francisco peaks. And he will be joining us today from Zoom.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. Yate she Sean Mulford Yinisha, Totnasan Ninshle, Mai dash Gizny Bushes Chin, Tlashi Edashe, Totsotni Edashinale. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you're from. I think we had a little technical difficulty this morning, so you caught me on the road. So I'm in the vehicle talking. So, but thank you for continuing to allow me the time to talk about things that need to be spoken. And thank you to Sarah James and her work. You know, we've been talking with her off and on over the years. You know, I remember when Obama came into office and we had so much hope that things would get done. And the elders and medicine people from around here got together and went up to Washington, D.C. And sure enough, we saw Sarah James in the same office. She was leaving when we were going in. And we asked her to, and her delegation to join us. And we had a meeting there at the Department of Interior. And I still remember that time and her strength then. And she does not look like she has aged one day since I seen her last time. So that's how the elders are. You know, they always say that they're young people still learning, and that type of strength of mind keeps them young and lets them go into old age in a healthy way, in a happy way. And so I'm seeing the strength of her prayers. She's following it and protecting her territory and protecting her generations yet to come, and looks beautiful. So thank you, Sarah, for doing that. And earlier today, I saw Stephen Newcomb on, I think it was earlier today. I don't know. There was a lot of technical stuff going on, but I saw his presentation. And so I want to thank him and his work of 50 plus years of decoding, you know, the legal aspect, the written word aspect of what had occurred to us as the people of the earth, not only here, but all over the world. You know, he mentioned the octopus ink that the Vatican had used. And I remember telling somebody, I said, you know, these attorneys are like octopus, you know, and what they do is when you challenge them, they jump into their legal framework, legal mind, and legal words, and they throw that at you. And then just like an octopus squirts its ink, and by the time you kind of clear the air, that octopus is gone. And where did it go? You know, that's their deception. Their ink is used for deception and hiding what they're really doing. And so I said, that ink that's what kind of lawyers do. If you question them, they begin to use their words as the ink. And by the time you sit there and think, what did that person just say? Let me think about that. What did he just throw in front of us? Then all of a sudden they're on to another topic, and they try to get out of it that way. But as Indigenous people, we have to go and see beyond that and continue to keep the pressure on them and to say, you know, find out the answers that need to be found out. You know, we're, as Hopi said, we're Dene people, Inaboho Dene, Noho Ka Dene, you know, the people of the earth. And so our homeland is between the four sacred mountains, cardinal mountains. We have a east, south, a west, and a north mountain. And then within that, we have other sacred mountains. And I've been working on the western mountain. Doko'oslid is the name of the mountain. And we've been protecting that area from a ski resort. You know, our ambition, our goal, our reason for doing it is we need to maintain the ritual purity of that mountain. You know, a mountain in the Nebezad, the Navajo language, is called Zith. And when you break that word down further, it comes from the word Zil, which means strength. And so Zil is strength, Zil is a mountain. So you know there's a lot of strength and power in those mountains. And so we're protecting that because we use that strength of that mountain to continue life the way that we were taught in the beginning. And so, as Stephen had mentioned, that, you know, the Christian Europeans came over here, and then they made some outrageous claims that they are taking possession of these lands, but it's not for them to possess these lands. They have no right to it. You know, the land belongs to the Creator, doesn't belong to them. And so, you know, we have to fully reject their outrageous claims. And I think that as we come together, we need to start moving and challenging those things every step along the way, because there's very little left. There's very little sacredness left in how things are being treated. You know, when a mining company comes in, a corporation or a government, a federal agency like the forestry, they don't treat things as being sacred. They just see them as a commodity, as a resource, as something that they can make money off of in one fashion or another. And so there's no sacredness in that kind of thinking and that kind of life. And so as we're working on protecting the ritual purity, the holiness, the sacredness of the mountains, we do need the support of the world. And as Sarah James had said, you know, we're asking for prayer, we're asking for strength, we're asking for the good things to extend life for all future generations. We're not just asking for a prayer for just ourselves. We're asking it for the whole creation, the little bugs, the soil, the water, the plants, the clouds, the stars, all of it. Because we understand as the original people that you can't destroy one portion of the creation and expect the rest of it to function. you know, so we have to protect all of it. I know there's some areas that the federal agencies say sacred site. Well, their definition of a sacred site is a narrowly delineated physical location. And so that means in their eyes, they're saying, okay, what's sacred? Where's the shrine? Where's this spring? Where's this thing? Where's the area that's the most sacred so we can fence it off and we can protect that area, and then we get the rest. So in the case of our sacred holy mountain, Dokosli, they came by and asked the elders, not only from the Dene people, but from the Hopi, the Havasupai, the Wallapai, the Apaches, you know, all of that. They came and said, okay, where's the most sacred area, and we'll fence it off. But everyone responded that the whole mountain is sacred. The whole area is sacred, and that we can't just say this part is sacred. And for that reason, you know, the federal agencies have a hard time because they don't want to protect the whole mountain. They just want to protect a piece. So, you know, when we talk about sacred sites, we, as Indigenous people, we can't allow ourselves to narrow that down to a particular location. We have to say all life is sacred. All creation is sacred. And when we maintain that mindset as Native people, then we can continue to give hope to the world of life, because we're still standing on our way of life, not just one part. And I remember the elders got together one time, and Arvol had asked them to come together for World Peace and Prayer Day, protecting sacred sites. And I remember the elders were confused. They said, what do they mean, you know, sacred sites? And what do they mean, you know, of the summer solstice, you know, when the sun is up like this, you know, what is that? Why not the moon? Why the sun? They said, you know, every day is sacred. We can't put one day above the next. And so I had to explain to the elders what Arvol was doing was not saying that one day was above the next, you know, saying sacred sites, but rather he was trying to unify the people and the different nations to come together in order to all bring ourselves together and put ourselves together in a good way, so we can all point ourselves in the same direction and begin to initiate a movement and a reaction and a response to what has happened to us as Native people. So as I said, we have to say every day is sacred, all life is sacred. And even though we want to talk for our sacred sites, we also want to make sure that the prayer goes for the entire life system. And another time we were in Washington with Arvol and the other elders and medicine people. The Department of Interior was working on a project under the Obama administration called the Treasured Landscapes. And there were 3 young men, Native men, working for Department of Interior. And they brought the elders in, and they were so excited to present this sacred or treasured landscapes initiative. And they asked the elders to select 27 sacred sites that they wanted to protect. And so they were looking at that. Hold on, somebody tried calling me. Okay, so they were looking at those that plan from these three young men from the government. And they looked at him and said, we can't do that. We can't say these sites are above all other sites. So they said, that's not who we are, and that goes against who we are. So they rejected that to, 27 sites, because they wanted to hold on and maintain their spiritual belief foundation that all life was sacred. But what they instructed those three young men to do is they said, you guys are working for the government, and we want to remind you to look back at your ancestry, look back at your ancestors, remember what has happened to them. Don't ever forget that. And to continue to protect that way of life from your position. And don't ever forget who you are and what this government has done to our people. That was what they were told. So I still remember that. And so here we are, I don't know how many, I think they said 38 World Peace and Prayer Days. And we have to be careful not to just continue to talk, but we have to take action too. And we have to come together, and we have to, even if it's writing a letter, signing a petition, going out and doing things that are beyond the talk. We have to stand in front of these corporations, because all these corporations understand and listen to is money. And that's what they're guided by, numbers and money. So we have to begin to make ourselves seen and heard to impact their numbers and money. In the case of Dolkosli, we stood there and we continued to protect that area and defend it, which costs the U.S. Forest Service and the resort money. They have to, when we're standing there, they have to, in this last case, they had to pay for a facilitator. And it's been almost 2 years of facilitation. That's a lot of money that they're bringing forth, and so forth. And the same with the forestry. They have all these personnel writing all these minutes, all these notes, doing all these things, and that, to them, that 2 years is a long time to hold them back from continuing their projects. And so we have to continue to stand strong and to make our voices be heard. I remember when I was a young man, we went and visited another Native nation, our relatives from a different part, and we got an eagle feather. And of course, as you know, Native people here, we can't have eagle feathers. It's illegal. But the U.S. government says, well, we're going to create a policy called the Morton policy that says, even though it's illegal for you natives to have feathers, we're just going to look the other way, is basically what they're saying. But if we choose to, we can enforce you not to have eagle feathers. So, they always have to have that, as Stephen Newcomb said, that feeling of domination over us. But I remember the young people got an eagle feather, and then I remember we were going on the plane to go back. We're all going to different areas back onto our lands, back home. And then some of the young people were afraid that they may get arrested by having the feather. And I remember the one elder just looked at them, the young people, and he told them, make them respect it. and whatever that meant to each individual, you know, that was what it was. Make them respect that. And I think that that's what we're trying to do today as Native people by standing on our way of life with prayer, song, ceremony, and to live as we have always lived, to be able to fish, to be able to get the plants that we need without permits and their permission. We need the permission only of the Creator, and to make them respect that, and to have them acknowledge that we have that right to live the way that we're living. And until they respect that, they're going to continue to try to dominate over us with their words and their armies and their military people, you know. As one of the elders from Florida said, he said, they're just a bunch of refugees with guns, you know. And then one of the other elders said, well, when they came here to take the land, they didn't pick it all up, put it on their shoulders and swim back across the ocean with all the land. The land is still here, and we are still here as the original people of this land. And so our responsibilities are still in place, and we just have to live that and to remind them, make them respect that we have a right to live the way the Creator gave us. And also the young people. The young people have entered into this digital world, the crystal world, where everything is run by these little chips, and their mind is starting to get into the zeros and ones. You know, that's how these computers are created. If this, then this. 0 or 1, off, on, you know, and our young people are starting to think like computers, and their mind is being trained to be just off, on, if this, then this, you know, and we have to get them back into the natural areas and get them back into the language, the original language. We have to get them back to start to put some of their energy into our way of life. Because, you know, I look at Sarah James, and she said she's 80, you know, and it's important that the next generation, she's protected that homeland all these years, and the next generation has to begin to pick up those responsibilities and to stand there and to protect those areas also. And it's the same way with us at the Sled. You know, we have to protect our homelands and hand it to the next generation the best that we can, so they can continue to protect those areas. But in order to do that, they have to go beyond this digital world that they live in. They have to go back into our original way of life, so they can stand on that original way of life, which has kept us going this far, and has gotten us to this point. And the technology is not going to get us any further. You know, when you rely on that, just like this morning, we were real technology, and then here we couldn't get it to work, you know. And we need to rely on something that's better. The 4 sacred elements of life, you know, those sacred elements that are important for us to continue life. So I don't want to say too much more, because this is a long conversation. It's a lot to think about. And I just also want to say hello to Karena Gore. I saw her briefly this morning, but her presentation was all sound like all kind of messed up on how she was, like it seemed like she was speaking 3 or 4 times. but just to see her and to hear her voice was really beautiful. I really appreciate her and the doors that she has opened up for us as the original people here to be able to go into the offices at the federal agencies at the highest level and to make our voices heard at those levels. And I really appreciate her and her work and her support of the Native people. And we need more of that. You know, it's going to take all of us, not just one person, not just one peoples, but all of us globally in order to come together and to protect the future from all of the damage, desecration, and destruction of our Mother Earth and all of the sacredness of life. So, yeah, thank you. And I appreciate it. And, you know, they wanted me to do some sort of presentation, digital or PowerPoint or something. And I don't have that type of thing. But if you go over to Hopi right there, that's standing there, and pass on the information to her, then I will get that information and then we can connect that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean, for joining us today and having patience for our technical difficulties this morning. Our next presenter is from Minnesota. His name is Sean Orthoman. He comes from the Gothy Daughters and Sons of Yatta. He's going to do a cultural presentation to the importance of traditional language. He's also one of our previous World Peace and Prayer Day organizers, Mexico 2007. So he's been part of our family, World Peace and Prayer Day family, for a while now. So once again, I'd like to present Shane Orthoman to come up on stage and do his presentation.
Right. Thank you. And I'm very grateful to be here, very humbled to be here. There have been so many wonderful speakers. I'm very humbled and honored to be here and be included. Yeah, so this conversation that we're having, the presentation today is about, I was thinking of Arvol's Looking Horse's statement from last year. And he's talking about what you've created has gone beyond your control and you're no longer in control of it. And I was thinking about that, and I'm going to tell a little bit on my people because I'm from Minnesota. Like Opie said, I'm a product of settler society. My family did preserve some hereditary Sami tradition. It was actually Arvol's Hunka father, Chris Leith, that saw that in me when I was standing together as a college student doing earth defense and eco defense alongside the American Indian movements and the Mdewakanton Dakota community, protecting what is now Pilot's Knob and Camp Coldwater Spring. And I am going to talk a little bit more about people being able to return to their roots at the end of the talk. But first, I wanted to talk about, I think it's a really good segue from Sean's talk, talking about this future, this digital age. And before I get to talking about it, I just want to point out everything has a spirit behind it, right? Everything has a spirit. You might think like, oh no, you know, that guy says he's an atheist, or that's a materialist idea. But even that mindset has a spirituality behind it. And so I wanted to come out here and kind of tell on my people a little more. Because in dealing with my people, a lot of it is about breaking down the whiteness and getting to that humility. So for me, even wearing some traditional clothing, you know, as white people, we're not supposed to wear traditional clothing. We're not supposed to wear things that connect us to a place or a culture, because we're supposed to be all cultures and be all people, which is like some of the other speakers have been saying, that's a form of piracy. Then you can come in and conquer. So to move away from conquering, we need to be rooted again in our place, in our proper culture and form. And no matter, like I said, I'm a settler myself, no matter where those people came from, they have a mother culture. They have a way, they have a place, they have a language, they have a connection to the earth. That's not the future they want for us. They want this future. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, so like I said, from the beginning of this talk, I'm going to be talking about the spirits behind things. So, you know, right now we're being told that the AI is inevitable. and that people are going to have digital versions of themselves, and that we're going to be, you know, just all kind of little drones from our little machines working hard. And so where's this mind? And this is all birthed from this science and technology. Where does that mindset come from? Next slide. Yep. So in a story, and this is just a story, but I think stories are important. And it talks about a lot of the people that started the scientific revolution, like Sir Isaac Newton, who they say, oh, he found these natural laws. Sir Isaac Newton was an alchemist. All right. He studied alchemy. What's that? What's alchemy about? Like, you hear about these things, right? But people in my culture, especially in Western Europe, they never actually tell you what they're about. They want to hide it behind a lot of things. But Sir Isaac Newton and a lot of the early scientists were all alchemists. What's an alchemist? The story of Faustus is the oldest story of an alchemist. And he's like an early scientist, a proto-scientist, and he sells his soul he summons up Mephistopheles and sells his soul for knowledge. And like I said, this talk, I'm talking about the spirit behind things. So a lot of, even what they're doing right now, like with this alchemy, was the basis for all the science. And this story goes back, it's even older. It goes back, the story of Faustus goes back to 1517. You know, hearing a lot of these dates about colonization and things like that. And what's interesting is that we credit Sir Isaac Newton with finding natural laws. That's not what he was doing. The story of Faustus and it's like the story of the alchemist. They weren't trying to find natural law. They weren't trying to observe natural law. They were trying to break and subvert natural law to their will. And they still are. That's still what's going on. You can look at some of the highest things in science today, whether it was the movie that just came out about Oppenheimer splitting an atom and destroying worlds. That's breaking natural law. That's hurting natural law. The big thing in Switzerland where they're banging particles together and they're naming God particles, it's alchemy. They're performing alchemy. It's this idea that you can break things apart in the world and bend nature to your will. And I feel like, you know, right now, I remember especially too, last year, a lot of people were talking about the greenwash. People wonder, you know, why aren't these technologies working? You have to look at the spirit of why people are creating these technologies and working on them. And this is something that my people, white people, have not done. You know, they refuse to look at the spirit, but the spirit animating a lot of this, like, inquiry, quote unquote, scientific inquiry, these innovations, is the spirit of the alchemist, the spirit of Faustus, this deal made to bend and control. Next slide. And this isn't the first time. So I mentioned a little bit about alchemists. They're a big thing. And it's interesting because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of Wiccans who want to come and support spiritual movement, and they want to support people, and they want to come out and they want to do this. And even like Oprah Winfrey did a big series on this book called The Secret. When people are talking about that, when white people are talking about that, what they're really talking about is the Key of Solomon. And the Key of Solomon is it's supposed to be this ancient thing that allows you to break with nature. But again, I think the spirit behind it and the story is interesting and helps us understand where we are in the world. Solomon was right. He built the first temple in Jerusalem. And to build that temple, he created the Key of Solomon, which was he summoned Asmodeus and a group of demons to create that temple so that no human hand would make it. I find that really interesting, right? He wasn't summoning angels. He wasn't summoning this. He was summoning dark spirits to create this temple. What's also interesting is that he was the king there who lost the Ark of the Covenant. You know, there's a lot of, after he built that temple, his people were conquered and the Ark of the Covenant was taken away. But when you hear people talking about the secret, you hear people talking about, you know, you especially hear white people talking about, well, I practice magic, this and that. And a lot of like the secret societies, they go back to this Key of Solomon, which is, again, it's about breaking and twisting the natural law to your will to create something that's supposed to be holy. Of course, how can something created by things that are not holy be holy? All right, next slide. So again, with my people, nothing's up front. So in some of our older traditions, we have prophecies about what's happening right now. You know, whether it's the Sami people in the Arctic, or even the cultures down below, the other Scandinavian cultures and the Baltic cultures. We have prophecies, we have songs, we have stories about what's happening right now. And right now, we're in a time of change and rebirth. And again, nothing is up front, right? What's interesting is, there's a lot of people, a lot of the Christian movements in the United States are talking about the end times right now, right? They're getting all into that. Well, in our original teachings, in our own prophecies, that's what's happening right now. So people are waking up, but they don't know how to express themselves. They only have the Christian language. They don't know how to express themselves, but they can feel it. They're dreaming it. They're living it, because we're living in this time of earth changes. And we're living in a time when our calendar is being reborn. So they talked about this actually beginning. There's a picture right there. That's a runestone from Sweden. It was carved around the year 700. Yeah. And they talked about how back in the year 536, that's when for us, it started changing. It's going through 4 ages. Yeah. But we know when it began, because that runestone set it out. And in that year, in 536, there was a volcano that erupted, and we had a 3-year winter. Yeah. And so we saw that, we saw the earth changes, and we knew that we were entering into this age. And this is at that time in the when they carved this, that was when the wars to Christianize the peoples of Europe were going on. That's when they were fighting. That's when those wars were going on. That's when a lot of our leaders decided to betray our original teachings, betray our culture, betray the earth, and make that deal I was talking about. Make the deal with, make a Faustian bargain, we call it, right? Make that deal. Sell their people out, sell out their ways, and move forward on the program. And that for us was the beginning of our bad times. They said that we'd know we were in the last age when the ground opened up and was yawning with corpses. Yeah. World War I, they said there'd be relatives that would all fight each other. What a lot of people don't know is that Queen Victoria had married her children all over Europe, and all those monarchs were cousins, like close in blood. And they slaughtered each other, and they slaughtered people around the world, and they slaughtered each other in trenches. That's when he said, oh, that's when you know you're going to be in this time. So, and also there's now, even in Iceland, where some of these prophecies are from, the volcanoes are erupting. And that for us, we can see that. We can see those signs and see that these things are happening as we were told. All right, last slide. So, living through these times, I feel like, Chris Leith always said something I think was, I always said, you can lie to yourself, but you can't lie to Creator. I listened to the speeches going on, it reminds me when I read Vine Deloria's book too, like God is Red. Other people can see white people better than they can see themselves. Yeah. Like know more about us than we know about ourselves, because you can see it. And so for me, working with my people, like I said, the big part is that like this energy that's behind this new technology, behind these social medias it's deception. Another word for that, Asmodeus or Mephistopheles, was just father of lies. And that's true. Everything our civilization, everything our governments put forward, you can even look at EU, you can look at NATO, everything comes out of their mouth is lies. Their whole civilization is built on that Faustian bargain, built on a lie that you can take something that harms human beings, that you can work with a force that harms human beings and try to make something good out of it. That's a false premise. You can't do that. It's not possible. And like I said, a lot of other people could see that when we couldn't see that about ourselves and what we were doing. And so, what I always want, when I talk to my people, I think the big part is not to be sold, when you're trying to get off the ride, when you're trying to reconnect and you're trying to find what's true, is that you actually have to do the work. You actually have to do the work. There isn't like an organization you can join or a book you can read or a course you can take. You have to do the work. And so, that's about, and also people look, like I said, I mentioned my cultural outfit at the beginning. But culture doesn't just connect you to your ancestors. It's not like you get a DNA test and say, oh, I'm 23andMe. I got a little of this and a little of that. I'm going to go take a little class and read a little book on this and that. It's not like that. Your culture is what connects you to the earth. Because in original teachings and in our songs, our language didn't come from us. It was given to us. It was given to us by Creator and by Mother Earth. And so you have to go back into that. So I always tell, I'll just leave it with this. So I tell for all the white people out there is listening to this talk and trying to reconnect, you have to visit the grave sites of your actual grandparents and relatives. You have to go there. You have to light a candle. You have to actually sit with your physical relatives. And even if you live in California and your people are buried in Pennsylvania, make the trip. Make the trip, you know, at least once in your life, you need to go and sit there with them. And when it comes to healing and from trauma, you have to take responsibility, not just for your own life, but for your family. And even, like I said, I came here today to tell on my people, and I hope I did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane, for your presentation. Our next presenter is going to be John Miller, also known as Turtle, from Maui, Hawaii, and St. Paul, stolen lands from the Dakota and Ojibwe nations. He's a water protector and a co-founder of the Rainbow Warrior Collective, and he's going to be doing a presentation addressing our greatest threats to Turtle Island. I'd like to welcome John Miller.
Aloha, how, and buzu. So my name's my colonial name is John Miller, but my birth name was John Kulu, which translates to turtle. And like many of my kin here, you know, my biological mother was a 12-year-old orphan on the streets of Saigon during the Vietnam War and was taken from her lands and brought to St. Paul, Minnesota, to your stolen lands, and later had me to my father, who was a white settler, 60 years old when she was young, and then I was taken away from her the first day of my birth and then raised by a white family. Through my time in my family and my privilege, I joined the Navy, but I also want to recognize, so yeah, I come from the lands of St. Paul, Minneapolis, so the lands of Dakota and the Ojibwe. I also hail from the island of Maui, Hawaii, so I do a lot of work over there. So for a lot of people know me for, I gave my medals back. There was a bridge collapse in Minnesota. I gave my medals back to the governor of Minnesota when we were fighting the Pipeline 3. And then since then, Creator and Spirits called me back to Hawaii, and we launched the Red Hill lawsuit against the U.S. Navy when they poisoned 93,000 family members with jet fuel. And thanks for the spiritual work we do. We were told to get our warning in 3 weeks before the actual spill happened. That way they actually knew that we were warning, and what actually happened. Since that time, and working with Maui, Maui Lahaina wildfires have been happening, but through my work here with several different natives here, the last year we've been working on a different initiative that I'm going to talk about here. And through this ceremony, through the work, it's a big warning that came out. And just to give you an idea how big of a warning it is, the letter that we sent out to the US NRC went out on June 5th at 1:11 in the morning. And I didn't really put it together until we were here and Chief Arvol was talking about that the white buffalo calf was born on June 4th. And so this is a great warning. And so it starts with the radioactive tritium leak that happened at the Monticello nuclear power plant where my white family lives at in the town there. 800,000 gallons of radioactive tritium went into the water. The problem is that radioactive tritium, the limits are set thousands of times higher, over 7,000 times higher than they really need to be safe. And so this is a major threat to all the people, especially the women and children. The effects of tritium is extreme problems with cancer on the children, birth effects, but it also destroys the entire Mississippi's ecosystem. And the Mississippi obviously being Mother Mississippi and our blood, but we have right at the sacred falls there, we have some of the last, they call it the last hope. It's the last holdout of mussels there. And this tritium collects in these mussels, and then once these mussels die, that's kind of the heart of the Mississippi. That's kind of, they call it the canary in our rivers. And once they die, that's kind of our last warning before everything goes. And if that wasn't hard enough, well, this letter went out at the same time the White House announced that the US was going to be now expanding nuclear energy production by 3 times. And so to give an idea what that means for the layperson, nuclear power plants need rivers in order to keep the reactors cool for safety protocols and to maintain the balance and equilibrium of energy. So if we're talking about tripling the amount of nuclear energy across Turtle Island, that means every river is going to have multiple nuclear power plants on it. And it's not just that we're having multiple nuclear power plants potentially on these rivers. It's the fact that we built 2 nuclear power plants in the last 20 years. So that means we're going to have contractors from across the US looking for money, willing to build nuclear power plants that they have no business building, and building them by dozens of them every year. And then operated by operators that have proven to not have integrity, like they did in Monticello, where they didn't even tell us that they had spilled the water and made it into the Mississippi until we disclosed through their own reports that they had done this. And so yesterday when Chief Arvol was talking, at the same time, the US Senate at that time, in my opinion, declared war against Mother Earth, was they advanced an act called the Advance Act. What that basically is now this House and Senate have now officially passed the bill. They've started to discharge over $900 million in this first tranche of money to start advancing nuclear power plants, to include nuclear grades weapons, uranium, for these power plants. And so this is a really important move, because I feel, for me, I don't like to talk, as you talked about this apocalypse level event, but this is to me kind of like that end level event. If we are not able to come together and stop the reckless adoption of technology without respect for Mother Earth, I don't think there's really a way we can come back from the amount of radiation that would go into our rivers, into our streams, into our food systems. I mean, the Mississippi alone provides 70% of our agriculture system. We start talking about other river systems, I mean, it's everything. And unlike fossil fuels, this is a secret killer, a secret poison. You can't see, you can't smell, you can't feel radiation until you have cancer. And one of the most important things, I think, why we need to say this is important, what I'm trying to get people, some of the legislatures to understand is, if we knew that there was a mass shooting at one of our schools or one of our churches, we would do everything in our power to try to stop that, right? Well, why? We need to find a way to rise up that same threat when we're talking about millions of children, not just being shot, which would be an easy way of suffering, a quick shot, pain, maybe you're dead, maybe you're in the hospital. But when our children have to spend years upon years in leukemia and treatment for cancer, it's a suffering that they should not have to bear. And I think we need to come together and do that. And so to make things short, I really believe, unlike the fossil fuel industry, where we're fighting kind of an uphill battle, I think the most important thing is when, as I do development and we work at the UN stage, one of the most important things we have to do is organizing the beginning of these fights before that train really takes off and gets moving. Because once the money and the banks are involved, fully engaged, it's really hard to stop these trains and these fights and these movements. Everybody's fully committed. But nuclear power is still in the beginning of its infancy of this new push. And so I think we have a chance to derail this train safely, or stop it, maybe that's the wrong term, stop this train before it leaves the station, and make sure that if the train ever leaves the station, it does so at the right way. And so one of the things we're asking for is, one, we're going to be talking to the tribes, especially the tribes that the lands have been stolen from. I think it'd be really important for those lands that were stolen to call upon the representatives of these lands and ask them if they've stolen these lands through genocide and forced removal. The very least that they can do, if they remove the sacred responsibility of protecting what's sacred, the river and the people, the first thing these representatives need to do is at least stand up and protect those waterways and protect the people that they're responsible for, since they've taken you guys away from those lands to do that. I think it's the first way of reconciling, one step of many steps that needs to be done in reconciliation. The other thing that I'm asking for is, I've been called through this journey and through the many elders I've been weaved through, is working with the matriarchs. It's women that carry the water and are some of the primary water protectors. And I want all water protectors from all groups that want to come on this fight. But I'm really looking for, the matriarchs that can really push this forward throughout the city councils and representatives along the Mississippi River. It's a lot of women. St. Paul alone has 7 seats and 7 females. I think Creator set all this checkboard up for us. And women are 6 times more likely to push nuclear power plants away from their communities and their children than men are. And so I think we have an opportunity to speak to the women in charge of these things and make these change that needs to happen. And so with that, I ask for your help, that those want to come and help. I'm here to listen. I'm always in training, and I'm always listening. So please always share what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong and how we can do things better. And I just hope we can come together and turn this into a beautiful lesson, because I really see in some of the vision ceremony I've done, one of the biggest things I think can come from this is rights of nature. One of the things we really want to say that we won is that the Mississippi River and soon all waterways become respected, just like corporations are. If they want to allow corporations to be like human beings, the very least we need to do is protect the sacred our rivers and our streams that give us all the abundance to live and survive. You know, Olikavai, Choni water's life. So we need to protect those legislatively and legally, just like a human being is. And then the other thing that we've seen, and it kind of goes with Chief Arvol, what you had spoke with, is we really believe that through this teaching, if we can teach them how to be good stewards of the land and teach them these ways and in the right ways, in a good way, I really believe through this teaching and through this relationship, you know, there's a chance that we can get the Bedote back. And we've seen the visions, and many other people we've talked to have seen visions of a multi-tribal medicine and healing center and diplomacy center for us to bring the tribes together and build these bridges with the West that, you know, doesn't seem to understand, you know, the ego, the masculine mental mind, help them kind of understand, you know, the ways of these lands and these rivers. And so I thank you for your time. I especially thank all of your tribes for all the hospitality and love and teachings that have come through this last year and a half of ceremony. I'm beyond humbled and grateful for that. And if there's anything I can do for you guys in return ever, please don't hesitate to ask. But I thank you again for this opportunity. Mahalo.
Thank you, Turtle, for that presentation. We are going to be closing this today with a video, pre-recorded video. Sorry. For Dr. Carol Woolman. So our next presenter.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to World Peace and Prayer Day 2024. I'm talking to you from Oakland, California, and it's a beautiful day here. I want to thank Paul and Arvol Looking Horse for putting their high purpose for peace into action for this kind of day. Also, Verna White Rose and all the people that helped put the day together. Today, I'm going to talk about the biggest threat facing humanity and all living things. The effects of global warming are obvious to all of us by now. But this threat that I'm talking about is much more sinister, and it lurks beneath the surface of awareness for most people. I'm referring, of course, to the threat of total nuclear war, which is a sword of Damocles that's been hanging over our heads since the bombs were dropped in Japan in 1945. Prayers for the abolition of nuclear weapons are desperately needed now, as the threat of nuclear war is being bandied about by Russia and North Korea. And it seems almost like it's about to break out in Europe. Nuclear treaties that were put in place during the 1970s treaty in place short-range nuclear missiles in Europe, but that treaty is gone. Nuclear stockpiles had been reduced during the 1980s and 1990s, but they're starting to be built up again and modernized, quote unquote. The United States and Russia each have 3,000 nuclear-tipped missiles aimed at one another on hair trigger alert.
So the videos are not playing super well. So sorry about that glitching. We're actually going to transition, I think. Arvol is going to share a little bit more.
Amitakepi. Ito na HAP na ke wopla tranka heche. Le wala ona jipi ka heche takeche ota makak neche akipka na unjipi. Heche oyate heche dona heche na ompi hinka na ia wopla tranka. Eche ona dako eche waka hina ka inche. Chake na wini hiche ota wihapi. Na hatona ona wochiki kagapi na tiata tuktekte hina wiwangochi hina kagapi. Chake ampetukule unchata ha na echukchike hina wochiki kagapi na tukate ke heche wichon chake hina washte hina ahunki papikte. Chake wichon chake hina waka taku eche makaka neche you can naki you can maka ka neche na wakahunki lapi. Yota shina wochiki ukagapi ka na you can Uchozani na woki wanglaki. Chake no cheta ha no echakchi ukawa chimpi. I have a hard time sometimes, speaking to the media and globally because I'm a Lakota fluent speaker and seemed like just recently, it was just we're young now, but time has really gone by fast. What I said in my Lakota language is that we are in a very crucial times right now, and all the signs are here, and the prophecy of the white buffalo calf woman, the story of the white buffalo calf woman was so beautiful, and life is so beautiful, and the way that we live was so beautiful, but now we're faced with global warming. Now we're faced with wars that nobody wins. And in our tradition, when I was young, being a sacred bundle keeper, I could never use foul language, or I could never carry a gun. That the way that we do ceremonies is that we go out and we call hamblechia or vision quest to but it's only far and few between that somebody would get a gift to run ceremony. And at the time they call it Wakan Yeska. Wakan Yeska is a interpreter of the sacred altar given by the Creator. But today we talk about our ceremonies being abused, and I never thought that I would be talking about things like that, the misuse and abuse of ceremonies, the abusing, missing and murdered women, the abuse of Uchimaka, Mother Earth, because not prophecy. It says that when we abuse Mother Earth, it's going to affect the minds, the body and spirit of the people, that they're going to lose their spirit, and they're going to be wandering around asking, when you go start to ask more people about spiritual, the sacred, they say that you get more confused. And we live in those times that we have lost our sacred journey. that Changleshka Wakhan is you know, being a Chanupawenka, and they said as a sacred bundle keeper, we have to always talk about promoting peace, because that Chanupa was brought here for peace and harmony. And that Chanupa, all the ceremonies, it's about health and well-being, nothing else. It's our own spiritual guidance from Alcantara, because all of us in that Changleshka Wakhan, the sacred hoop, there's no one person higher than the other upon Mother Earth. And that's what I said, that all nations, there's no one nation higher than the other, because we're all human beings. We should respect Uchimaka. Uchimaka is a living spirit. And the elders, our sacred teachings from many nations, they talk about peace and unity. Where did we go wrong? No, this is a time that we as the people, when the white buffalo calf is born, it's going to be like a reawakening of our sacred sites to follow spirit. And we have to follow spirit. That's what the old ones tell us through ceremony. Follow your spirit. Follow spirit. And you pray about it, someday it's going to show itself. And the first white buffalo was born in Janesville, Wisconsin. That was a message. It was loud and clear. You had a lot of media all over the world that came in. And we have a lot of people that are very spiritual, made that sacred journey, because we're in that changes of time. And we, but yet we're faced with the abuse of Mother Earth in our everyday life. All the things that doesn't belong in the ceremony is happening. We have pipelines. We have earthquakes, volcanoes erupting. That Mother Earth, no. If we really truly walk what the Great Spirit gave us. It was just in the 60s, we never had cancer, or we never had being diabetic. In our teachings, it says when a sickness affects a family, one person in that family affects the whole family. Rather, it's mind, body, and spirit. Because that family hoop needs to be protected. The sacred hoop of the nation shall be protected. And as a spiritual leader of the Beckford ride, Virgil Killstreet had a dream, away humbly, that the sacred hoop was broken at Wounded Knee. And where Blackout talked about that Changleshka Wakhan. And in 100 years' time, that we'll start to bring our nation back together by making that journey on foot, running, or riding horseback. That's the way we carry a message. And we rode horseback back to Wounded Knee. They say that all the buffalo was taken out. But the Walking Oyate, the Thunderbeings, they still come back. Because they follow. The reason why we're supposed to have buffalo and horses is that there's a spiritual connection in ceremony. The more you cut down or the more you abuse the earth, things are going to change. We'll be faced with global challenges. And the elders said, no, we have to make the right the direction by healing what our elders have gone through, the boarding school era. And so we had a lot of elders back in the 80s talking about our journey, our spiritual journey. But earlier in that, we were part of that American Indian movement. And I sat with the elders. They came to Greengrass. Greengrass is like a central place where people came, people that Crazy Horse, Sid and Booth, all the people that you read in the books. But there's many stories and leaders that were not heard of. I grew up listening to that. So a lot of times I talk about that. The leaders that were renowned leaders that you read in the books. But history began, the newcomers come. Our oral history goes way back before that. And when the treaties were signed, Crazy Horse never wanted to sign that treaty. And a lot of our people all over the world, they truly believe what we believe, that we belong to the earth, that we take care of Ojimaka, we take care of Mother Earth. We walk this land only what the Creator gave us. But our ceremonies and our sacred sites, they're not man-made. So the prophecy was means a lot. When I heard a prophecy of the white buffalo calf woman, I thought, well, that's so many generations ago, over 2,000 years ago. But we've been doing a lot of studies and work on pictographs, sacred sites, and everything that's written is even more than that. Because the sacred spirit bundle I take care of, it doesn't go by generation of father to son. It goes with the star knowledge that we chakpiwaka. And these sacred sites are here. So back in the 70s, the elders talked about that. And I was there listening, learning about the connection with the star knowledge that we come. The sun, the moon, everything goes in a circle. And different times, the sacred sites connect like that. And this year is that time on June 21st. That's our spiritual connection. And the moon is going to be a full moon. That's what they said in the ceremonies a long time ago. That we prayed about it, and the grandfathers told us that we got to stand for the blood, the red stone, the blood of our people. The reason why it's red, because it has the same amount of iron is in our body. It's red. The iron is about life. That stone is they call it tron gan. Tron is birth, gan is ancient. It was they're the first creation. The stone people, the grandfathers, the stone people. So we have from the time of beginning, and they said, we shall be the last. We were first, we shall be the last. And it's a way of life. When the white buffalo calf story was told to me when I was young, they said that the last stage, the white, we have the black west, red north, yellow east, and the white south. When the white buffalo calf woman come, she went up the hill, changed black, red, yellow, and white. The white is purity. With the black nose, black eyes, black hooves. So we're going this clockwise motion, and we're at that stage where the white buffalo shall be born. But in our ceremonies, they say that it should be done many generations to come. But we're the ones that making things happen so quickly on earth. We're destroying everything. We're destroying the future of our children. That story that was told to me, I thought, no, I'll never see that in my generation. And here it is. The first white buffalo was born in Janesville, Wisconsin. We call it miracle. This is the second, as we get ready to come here in our ceremony, said, said, Awachike money. You pray about it, and things would show up. They'll guide you. Wakantrika would show you, show show you. So as we prayed about Pipestone, Minnesota, the way in our ceremonies and everything, sacred sites, star knowledge, the moon, the sun. And it's all connected like this right there. And it came right here, right now. This is going to happen right here on June 21st. We're going to see the sun, we'll see the moon, the full moon. We're going to see the power. And here it is, a white buffalo calf on June 4th, being born on this Turtle Island. This is the Turtle Island here. This is the blood of our people here. So what I said was that, like the elders told me a long time ago, to send a man overseas, and overseas, over 2,000 years ago, or probably more. But the spirit woman was sent here on this Turtle Island. And we're living it. We're breathing it. This is the sacred land, the Turtle Island. We followed the turtles back for ceremonies. Long time ago, from this Turtle Island, the center is the blood of our people here. The turtle lived the longest. Now, probably some of the elders, I know I did, and Paula did. No, when you were young, you have to swallow that turtle's heart. Even though it's pumping, you swallow it. They give you a long life. A lot of our medicines, it's all traditional medicine on this Turtle Island. So today, we still have that faith and belief. But we are in a stage, like overseas, they say in that Bible, the teachings were made of stone. I think it's the 10 Commandments. And here on this Turtle Island, I think it was Arizona and Mexico, I was invited. The calendar on the wall, how beautiful life was. Then at the end, there's a picture of that buffalo. And the elders told me the reason why we asked you to come here is that buffalo, it's written in stone. It's part of the pictograph. And to me as a sacred bundle keeper, no, I can't even, I don't want to scare anybody, But our life is on the line right now. Could be war, could be global disaster. When you are at Standing Rock, you say, pray with that fire. So we lit our sacred fire. We set up our council lodge. We set up our Ocheti Shakoni. And that's where the headsman came into. But at the same time, we had to go out west to Yellowstone. They say that this is going to trigger anytime. I can't remember what they call it when they shoot things into the ground, fracking is happening all around Yellowstone. And that can trigger that super volcano. We're living a very dangerous time right now. Either fire, water, war. But there's a reason why the signs of the white buffalo calf is here. Miracle. And back to Yellowstone. Like I said earlier, that we walk to protect. Rosie Little Thunder's dream was to protect the buffalo at Yellowstone. They're getting massacred. No, she gave me opagi, and I walked with her. Said, you should come with me because you're the bundle keeper. We are the Buffalo Nation. Rosie Little Thunder said, we need to protect the buffalo. They're the ones that bring the thunder beings in our ceremony. And right now, we're faced with a drought, different places. And I talked about that. When we were getting ready for World Peace and Prayer Day, they sent a message from South Africa, said their earth is cracking. Tell the people to pray for us. The rainforest, they say when you start cutting down the rainforest, taking away our lands, it's going to affect the lungs of the people. Shortly after that, we have COVID. Just the same story that we heard when part of everything that is the Black Hills, shapes like a heart. All of our sacred sites is from up there, looking down. Back then, thousands of years ago, they had no satellite. And yet we have the pictures right now to validate that these sacred sites are connected like the star knowledge. From the satellite view, you look at the heart. Now they even show the pictures of our ceremony. You fast forward the 4 seasons, and it's a heart that is pumping. They say that Wakantaka gave us this Turtle Island to take care of. Every water, hills, places, they all have a sacred name. We must come back to with our sacred knowledge. What has happened? Well, the government did a good job on our people. And we're here struggling. We're here we can't even shake hands like COVID. When we're supposed to be about love and compassion, like every religion in the world. Our spirituality It's a way of life. Loving the water. We have ceremonies. The women take care of the water. And yet they're being abused. We know that we have the star blanket that says that we're not perfect people, but the white buffalo calf woman said, don't make more than what it is. You tell the truth when it comes to ceremony. And yet, the ones that are running our ceremonies are the ones that are hurting our people. There's money involved. I heard my grandma say, I can't afford. I'm on a fixed income. I can't even afford our ceremonies. That we have gone to a place like what they created nowadays. It's all about money. It's about hatred. It's about anger. We're speaking out of anger because they put us in the concentration camps. Now we're still living in concentration camps, but no boundaries. There's no fence. We got to go above it. For the sake of our children. I know, I truly believe in that. The spirit of miracle. I really believe the white buffalo calf was born in Yellowstone. And I truly believe the blood of our people. What little we have left here. Now I spoke on, it's called Native American Calling, talking about the Pipestone quarries. Every one of them talk about arts, how they crave the pipestone. And I was the last speaker, and I said, we need to protect the blood of our people. Those of you that really believe in prayer, our ways of the First Nations people, indigenous people of this land. There might be a few, but we got to stand together. So this really means a lot to me. Now I thank everybody for coming. So I'd like to maybe set up both the skulls here and the robes, because this is our way to that we must share in a good way. But this is, we brought this back at Standing Rock to protect the sacred. And we're here to protect the sacred. We're here to protect the sacred of our ceremonies. And I want to continue our speakers or whatever you want to share. You know, the mic will be open.
All right, that concludes our broadcast for today. Thank you to everyone that came and participated and offered their prayers and thank you for having patience for us during our technical difficulties. And I guess that concludes today. I also, there's a few announcements that I have to make after